This podcast is a member of the Place to Be Nation family. Visit us at placetobenation.com, the only place to be in your pop culture world.
Place to Be Nation Wrestling. Welcome to episode number 18 of NWA Crock Roll. I am your host, Sean Kidd, and we are 1 month away from our 1 year anniversary, which is pretty crazy. So pretty exciting times. We are on our last part of our Before They Were Crockett series, part 4, and we have 7 new matches to watch tonight with stars from the Crockett era that we have discussed so far in our timeline watch. We are still currently waiting for current WWE on the cock to get their act together and add some NWA back to it, some Crockett era wrestling. But we are right now, as we're recording this, we are in June, and we still got 2 months to go, and we're going to continue to ride this out because we got a couple special series coming up after this one. But this will be the conclusion of the Before They Were Crockett series. So before we jump into it, I would like to introduce my co-host. Up first, Dr. G. How are you doing this evening?
I'm doing great, Sean. I'm excited to talk about some of these matches. Wow, you really took us back on some of these matches. Woo!
Yeah, I definitely went down some rabbit holes I didn't expect to find. Some of these I had no idea, especially the last match we're going to talk about tonight. I was like, what the hell is this? And that one took me aback. So I look forward to talking about that one because that one just had no idea how I found that one.
I tell you, and again, you hear the different announcing from around the country, from years ago. So that's also an interesting part of the matches as well. That I picked up on. But it's these guys had other careers before, we're in other territories before the stuff we're watching, and it's definitely neat to see how the evolution of their character throughout the years.
And tonight, we actually, literally, we span from Japan to Memphis to
Florida.
Houston, Florida, and then we end up in the Texas, and then we end our last match is actually from Michigan. So we cover a lot of span in tonight's episode. So
yeah, I've never seen a match from like that big time wrestling or whatever. That was new to me. So that was kind of neat.
Based on what I saw, there's probably a reason for that, but we can get into that a little later tonight.
That's true. I can't wait for that.
Yep. And also like to introduce my second co-host, Calum McDougall. How are you doing tonight, sir?
I am very well, Sean. Thank you. How are you?
I am outstanding because this is the night I've been waiting for since we started this series, with a match that I handpicked specifically for you, and I'm very excited to hear what your response to it will be tonight.
Yes, I am. I'm excited to give my response to that one because I saved the best. I think it's coming up in the middle of the show, but I saved the best for last. I didn't want to give anything away about it. But I think some interesting matches on tonight, and I think I could be. I was telling you guys earlier on, but I could be bringing out the full 5 stars again for I think only the second time on the show. I think it's only Magnum and Tully that I've got 5 stars so far, but we could be breaking it out again tonight.
Well, I'm curious to see because I think the first match we're going to talk about is pretty great, but my gut tells me the 5 stars is going to come for a certain reason, but maybe you'll surprise me. I don't know. We'll find out. And then finally, our rotating fourth horseman, who was on our last episode with us, is my podcast partner on many, many pods, guest spots, and a new Impact pod that for some reason just seemed to come out of the blue that we do. Matt Souza, how are you doing tonight?
Gentlemen, always a pleasure to be on with you. Sean, another podcast we're doing together. This has to stop. We have to stop meeting like this. It's becoming a problem, but always a pleasure to be on.
Yes, and we have one more pod to do this week, so we're getting to the end game there, Matt. We're in good shape right now. So gents, this is our final episode of our 4-part Before They Were Crockett watch. We will talk a little bit about what our next set of 2 are going to be after this one for the month of July, because this will finalize the month of June for us, and then July for our 1 year anniversary. Kind of have like a little bit of a spin-off of these 4 parts we've done that we'll talk about at the end of the show. But so before we get started, we have now watched 22 matches up to this point of this podcast of Before They Were Crockett. So we have 7 more to watch tonight, but thought it'd be kind of nice to go down memory lane and talk about what are the 5 best matches we have watched out of those 22 and what have been the actual 5 worst. So I will go down to top 5. So we have a tie for the top 2. It's Flair versus Sawyer from the first part of our series. Rock and Roll Express versus DiBiase and Williams, also from our first part of the series. Both of those averaged out at a 3.18. Obviously, for that part 1, we had Scott Schiff with us on that one. Number 3 is Dusty versus Bockwinkel. That was from our last episode. That was at a 3.12. Number 4 was Billy Jack Haynes and Piper versus Ric Flair and Rip Oliver. That was 2.93. And rounding up the top 5 out of these 22 was Tully Blanchard and Gino Hernandez, the dynamic duo, versus No Yob, Mills Mascaris, and Tito Santana at a 2.81. So out of the 22 we've watched, those are our top 5. So any thoughts before we move on? Dr. G, any thoughts on those 5 matches?
Yeah, I think we were all pretty much in line with, you know what I'm saying? That's why they made that top 5. I think that I guess we were shocked by the Oregon matches.
Mm-hmm.
Like, when you picked that, I was like, was this going to be good? And the Pacific Northwest really shined, if you think about it.
Yeah, and it's really not a place that we really talked about too much. And yeah, It shocked me. And the other shocker that came out to me is that 3 of our top 5 came from our very first episode, and then the other 2 came from our last episode. So looks like episode 2 was kind of maybe a clunker.
Yeah, I think we ripped into that one the most, if I remember correctly. So, yeah, I was, pleasantly surprised with the Pacific Northwest. I was always aware of the Pacific Northwest, obviously, from various wrestling podcasts, but because I was such a big Billy Jack Haynes fan, I remember when he was coming to Florida, they would do those little video montages of him, that he's going to be coming from the Pacific Northwest and all that stuff. So that's how I knew they existed, and in the wrestling magazines. But it was never one of those territories you always heard about all the time. But I heard Don Owens paid really well. So, or Don Owen, is it Don Owen? I think.
No, Owen. It's whatever it is. But I will tell you, he gave us 2 pretty damn good matches to go back and watch. So
no doubt.
Good job there. So, Calum, your thoughts? I think the biggest surprise for me out of all these top 5, we brought up Portland, but Ric Flair versus Brett Sawyer. I never imagined in a million years they would be the number 1 match we've watched out of 22 matches so far.
Me too.
Yeah. And Calum, what do you think?
Yeah, Flair Sawyer being number 1. I mean, if you put like that top 5 there, if you said they're the 5 best matches we're going to watch, Brett Sawyer being involved in a match I would have put that number 5, absolutely. That just came out of nowhere. But I can't argue with any of them. The Rock and Rolls DiBiase Williams match, that was another excellent outing from Mid South, and we've all enjoyed the Mid South stuff we've watched so far. Dusty Bockwinkel, you knew was going to be a probably a really good match, and it delivered. So yeah, it shows that we've uncovered, we've sort of confirmed that Mid South was excellent, but we've also uncovered that Portland and Houston were also really good as well. So it's it's been an eye opener. And we'll go into it in a wee bit in the next bit, but it's amazing how the WWF was the one that stuck around, to be honest.
Yeah, some really good stuff here in what we've watched. So that's been the highlight for me. Is I want to get back to our normal Crockett watch, but I think going into it when we get to September, for me, now that I have a wider perspective of some of these folks and what they did prior, I think it'll help me enjoy it probably even more, to be honest with you. So, and Matt, I know you weren't on for the first 2 parts and you were only on for the last episode, but from your last episode, we had Dusty versus Bockwinkel and that tag team match from Portland. So any of your thoughts on them being in the top 5?
Yeah, both matches definitely belong there. The Dusty Bockwinkel match was, I think I rated it as the best match from the last time I was on, so definitely belongs. And I mean, as far as Ric Flair being number 1, I mean, it's that old saying, Ric Flair could carry anybody to a 3-star match, and so not exactly a shock that Ric Flair is number 1 so far. So
yeah, number 1 and number 4, so 2 Flair appearances
right
in the top 5, so pretty on brand for Ric Flair. So. All right, so now we'll talk about our worst, and I'm going to count down from the fifth worst to the absolute worst. So out of 22 matches, the fifth worst match we've watched is Paul Ellering and Mr. Olympia versus the One Man Gang and Killer Khan. We gave that cumulative 1 star. That was in our second episode of this the part 2 of this series. Buzz Tyler versus Jerry Blackwell, average a .75. That was on our last episode. Billy Graham versus Bruno Sammartino, if everybody remembers that classic from our first part, 0.37 average. Stella May and Mike Von Erich versus Gino Hernandez and Baby Doll got a 1/4 star in our second part of this. And then the number 1 worst match that we have watched on this 22 episodes that we've seen, and possibly the worst match in the history of wrestling and mankind, Jimmy Valiant versus Chief Jay Strongbow, big fat zero dud, whatever you want to call it. So, Calum, any thoughts on the bottom 5?
No complaints, really. The Paul Ellering match, I think, was maybe down there because you'll get sort of the shorter matches that were down, even though it wasn't great, but the rest of them thoroughly deserved to be down there. Tyler and Blackbell didn't have much going for it other than a crazy top rope spot. Graham Sammartino match we thoroughly ripped into. And of course you've got the good old abomination that was Jimmy Valiant and Jay Strongbow, so can't argue with any of them. They all were pretty horrendous.
All right, so for context, Colin, would you say I know we said it's the worst of the matches we watched on this series, but could it be honestly the worst match you've ever seen of all time for you?
Valiant and Jay Strongbow?
Yes.
It's certainly up there. It could be one of
easy top 5 worst you've ever seen.
Absolutely. It is there. I mean, it probably is the worst because I've unfortunately or fortunately never seen Sharmelv against Jenny Maraska from Turning Point, which you guys will get to look forward to in a good few years' time. But it was for a match that was 15 minutes long. It was just awful.
Okay. And Matt, we have watched plenty of bad matches together, being on Chicken Salad or being on Highway to the Impact Zone. It seems to be our gimmick that we're stuck watching really bad shit. And you obviously were on the last episode where you watched Tyler versus Blackwell and Valiant versus Strongbow. So how about for you? Because I know you watch a lot of wrestling like I do. Would you say Valiant versus Strongbow easily top 5 worst match you've ever seen in your life?
Having that match at a 0 seems a bit too high. I believe I went negative 100 stars on that match.
I did.
You may have to adjust your ratings.
Well, I just did it as an even keel. I mean, it could be worse, but you know.
But yeah, I mean, I'd have to go back and think and relive some of the worst matches that I've probably seen. But off the top of my head, it's certainly on the list. I don't know how high or how low. I mean, there's a lot of bad stuff that I've watched, particularly in 2004 TNA, and but there's a lot of bad there. But yeah, the fact that it went 15 minutes and nothing happened, like it's just awful. And that I've watched that Bruno Billy Graham match too. I think it was on when the WWE Network was a thing here in the States. I think it was on there, and yeah, that match was incredibly disappointing and very bad. So, but all worthy of being on the worst list.
All right, and lastly, before we start our final part here with the 7 we're watching tonight, Dr. G, your thoughts on the bottom 5?
You know what? I'm not even gonna waste that much time on it. I'm in total agreement, and yes, that Strongbow Valiant match is definitely a top 5 worst match for me. No doubt about it.
All right, so
and even though Valiant wasn't as bad as we've seen him in.
Just fathom that. He's not even as bad as we've seen him on this show, but he still manages being one of the worst matches we've ever seen in our life.
Exactly. I never got Chief Jay Strongbow. I don't know. I think he might even be worse than Valiant to me, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, whoever thought putting those two together clearly made a very, very bad mistake.
Clearly hated the fans.
Clearly hated the fans. Clearly didn't want to draw any money to MSG the next month.
That's the take a dump match. That's what we should call like the real bad matches.
Well, you had 15 minutes to do it, so grab a paper and have a good time while you're in there.
Exactly.
Anyway, all right, so we are going to kick off. So we have 7 matches, 7 wrestlers from Crockett era, from April 85 to November 85 that we watch in matches that we haven't seen. So our first match tonight, I've heard a lot about this tag team tournament and obviously about this era of New Japan. Not New Japan, but All Japan. And they're very famous for doing their tag team tournaments. We are going to December 15th, 1977. And this was a part of the All Japan Pro Wrestling Open Tag Tournament. It is the Funk Brothers versus our Crockett representative for this evening in this match, Abdullah the Butcher, and obviously the Sheik. And the Sheik, obviously a very famous wrestler out of Detroit, very famous wrestling star. And Abdullah, and it's kind of cool to go back and see the Funks versus Abdullah and the Sheik. And at first, we haven't had a whole lot of great things to say about Abdullah the Butcher on our show. I think the best thing I ever said about Abdullah was probably the Sombrero match from Starrcade 85, because I think I liked it a lot more than most people did. And probably part of that was because of Manny Fernandez. But so, yeah, we're going to open it up with Abdullah in a tag team match from All Japan. So I'm going to run it down, and then we'll talk about it. So all these matches, as always, are on YouTube. And we can fast forward unless you want to see everything. They recap a lot of the tournament, but the match actually starts at 7 minutes and 38 seconds if you fast forward to it on YouTube. And again, it recaps everything. So Terry Funk, I didn't recognize at all. He looks very different. The Funks look very different in this. They look like collegiate athletes. I mean, Dory still fundamentally looks like Dory, but in their jackets, Terry looks so different. They actually look like real, almost amateur wrestlers, which took me back a little bit because I haven't seen the Funks wrestle from this era at all. The other note I made, I love the Japan pageantry with the flowers, etc. in the ring. Makes it a really big deal. Once Sheik gets to the ring, they start brawling, and it breaks out before Abdullah even gets in. The crowd goes apeshit because Abdullah's still making his way to the ring, and the Sheik just starts going at it with the Funks, which is great. Sheik is literally busted open in the first minute, and then Abdullah soon follows. The Funks were on fire. The crowd was so hot for the Funks. Just hot baby faces, and I never really correlated in my head that the Funks were this hot and this over. I mean, you hear stories and tales of the Funks back in the days, but holy shit, you watch this match, you realize how hot baby faces they were in Japan. Dory got struck in the throat by the Sheik, and I really love the simplicity of Terry coming in and kind of toss him out of the ring to walk it off. Like Terry just comes in, tosses Dory out of the ring so he can kind of walk off the injury. Dory Funk hits a freaking suplex on Abdullah that was unbelievable because I could never imagine anybody picking that big son of a bitch up. Abdullah was actually moving and could run the ropes. It wasn't that funny little jog sprint that we made fun of a couple times on this show. And here's what gets weird for me. Sheik takes a spike and literally beats the hell out of Terry's arm and is just scraping the shit out of his arm. And then Abdullah works over the same arm, and he's just a bloody mess. And I guess for me where I got confused is they do this right in front of the ref. And I wasn't really sure why the ref didn't DQ them, but you know what? I didn't care because I was totally enjoying this. And then the other thing was the ref actually pushes Dory back when he comes in, but he lets the heels keep using the spike on the arm, which I thought was really, really funny. Abdullah, his little big guy, fat guy running elbows, I thought were fantastic. Dory finally gets a spike and beats up both heels while Terry gets his arm taped up outside, which I thought was a neat little side bit. Terry comes back in to save his brother from a double team. Sheik knocks the ref down and continues to use the spike on the faces, and we finally get a DQ after all that chaos. The brawl continues after the match as wrestlers try to break it up. The crowd is just going apeshit for the Funks after the match, especially Terry, who is bandaged up. Terry Funk is so over in this match. The Funks are awarded the trophy. This whole thing was fantastic. If I take away the dumb ref stuff aside and the DQ, this was probably one of the best brawls I've ever seen. Got 3 3/4 stars on this. And I am going to go to you, Dr. G, first.
This match, I guess now I'm watching this, I'm not saying he was great because he wasn't, but now I could see where the legend of Abdullah the Butcher,
appeal maybe. The appeal.
Yeah, the appeal. I guess you could say the legend too because he is kind of known as a legend, especially in Japan. But yeah, I mean, I definitely could see where people. I mean, he definitely moved better. Obviously, he was younger here. But the Funks, wow. Because like you, I've heard my whole life how, over they are in Japan, but we don't get a lot of that stuff unless, now you can go search on YouTube, which now I probably will try to do more. I really, Terry, everybody thinks of Terry, the ECW Terry Funk. They don't really, he had 3 different careers if you really think about it. Especially, when he was world champion, NWA world champion, his Japan days, his ECW days, or even WCW. So maybe like 4 careers. I mean, the guy had, what did he wrestle for almost 50 years? So,
Yep.
I mean, it's just really good stuff. I mean, I love brawls, but I don't like it all the time. I don't want to have every match be like that. But every once in a while, you like to see a good old-fashioned brawl. Like you said, all the DQs and all that, that nonsense is not always the greatest because you like to have a decisive winner. But putting that aside, I went 3 stars on this. I enjoyed it. I really I was actually pleasantly surprised because when I saw it on paper, I was like, it's probably not going to be so great. But you surprised me, so 3 stars on that baby.
Surprised me as well. Matt, what'd you think? I know you and I have talked about this match prior, and just for everyone to know, there's actually 2 other matches that these guys have in 78 and 79 that these teams have that are also really great, but this is the first one I picked. So Matt, what'd you think of this match?
Yeah, this is a really great brawl, just nonstop action. The crowd is absolutely manic through the whole thing, and you brought up the DQ stuff. The only reason I can think that they didn't call a DQ is because this was actually the finals of the tournament.
Yeah.
So maybe the storyline was like, all right, he doesn't want to throw a DQ unless he absolutely has to. I mean, I don't know. I'm just taking a guess. But I mean, it ends in a DQ anyway. So, but yeah, it's just such a great match. Terry's arm was a complete mess.
Mangled.
It was brutal.
Yeah.
His selling was absolutely incredible. Abdullah moving around the ring well. It's such a fantastic match. Just a wild brawl from start to finish. I'm at 4 stars for this.
Wow. Matt going to full 4 stars. All right. Calum, bring us home.
I mean, I've been a bit more receptive to the Japanese stuff than most on this show, but this was very un-Japanese. The crowd were nuclear the whole time, and it was just chaos from start to finish. Lots of spike action. I've also got a note that the ref was pretty awful, but I see where Matt's coming from. That you don't want the to throw out a tournament final for a DQ or a double DQ or whatnot. But I thought this was absolutely brilliant. So I've not got a recency bias. I'm not completely against matches from the early 80s or the 1970s. I went 4 stars on this one as well. I absolutely loved it. It was excellent from start to finish.
Yeah, so 3.75, 2 4-star matches, and Dr. G at the 3. So this actually might take the lead on number 1 match. I'll calculate everything at the end, but definitely a highlight for me. Go out of your way to find this match, and if you could, go out of your way to find the other 2 matches from 78 and 79, because after I watched this one, I watched them too, and both of them are freaking outstanding as well. And I think, Matt, you watched a couple of those too, right? Or at least one of them.
Yeah, all the matches between these 4 guys are fantastic. This one I think is probably the best one, but they're all really great.
Yep. So starting off hot with, and you would have thought you'd ever get a 4-star Abdullah the Butcher match. So a nice pleasant surprise there, kind of like with Brett Sawyer being number 1 in the best match we've watched so far in the series. All right, so we're going to switch gears a little bit. We're going to head to Memphis, and it's Jerry Lawler versus Conga the Barbarian at the time, the Barbarian. This match is from February 18th, 1984. It is for the Southern Heavyweight title. I thought so we'll just jump right into it. I thought Conga the Barbarian looks more like an 80s YMCA biker gang member versus the Barbarian that we know. He has a huge mohawk, chainmail, and they bill him from the streets of New York. Lance Russell's on commentary, and this is the Memphis studio TV show that we all know and love for the most part. Barbarian talks a lot of crap while commentary totally craps all over his haircut, which is pretty funny. I never heard Barbarian and Crockett as vocal as he is here. Like, he is so vocal, and he dominates Lawler to start with his strength and the slams. Lawler is kicking to his gut, is no sold by the Barbarian. And they really play up Conga as a monster force in the ring by the announcers. Russell says Conga does not have bodybuilder physique. He's just massive, which, okay, that's a great way to sell your big monster there. Not a great bodybuilder, just as massive. Conga just dominates until Lawler gets a fury of punches. Lawler goes for a top rope punch and the Zimbabwe Express run in for the DQ. The heels beat up Lawler as a bunch of the heels stand at the entrance to keep faces from running in to help, which, is kind of old school Memphis booking to get heat on the heels, which I thought was pretty neat. And then we get a brawl outside too, including Rick Rude, who gets in the fray. Lawler is busted open and he's left lying. I'll reserve my opinion on this match before I'll get everybody else's opinion and I'll give my thoughts. So I am going to go to Matt next. Matt, what did you think?
Before we start, do you guys want to take a guess at what number championship reign this was during for Jerry Lawler?
Oh my God, 84. He's in the teens probably at this point, I would imagine.
When was this? 1984? Did you say?
84.
And he had like 30 some title reigns with the Southern title, right?
Yeah, so I am thinking this is during number 27.
This was during his 37th reign as champion.
Jesus Christ, how many reigns did he have?
Quite a bit. I didn't count the full number, but 1984 was his 37th reign as champion.
Well, I guess he is only like a few years from winning the world title, so that probably makes sense. Wow, that's crazy.
This match to me was kind of Memphis in a nutshell. Lawler versus big muscular dude. Not a lot of great moves in the match per se, but the crowd heat is manic. Lawler throwing the punches. I mean, Lawler's punches are fantastic. You get a DQ finish, and it ends up with a wild brawl. I mean, that's you want to know what Memphis wrestling is. That's pretty much all of it right there. All that stuff kind of checks every box. The match was pretty short. Was maybe, I don't know, did it even go 5 minutes? It was really quick before the DQ.
No, I feel like the end game of what happened after the match was longer, actually.
Right.
Yeah.
The match itself was probably worth, I don't know, maybe a star and a half. I struggled with this one as far as rating, so I win a star for the match itself. But I mean, the match was completely secondary. It was all about the post match angle and the post match promo that a bloody Lawler cut.
Yeah, Matt, quick question. Did you feel like Lawler pretty much got squashed this whole match?
Yeah, I was going to mention that too. I made a note of that. It was interesting. I mean, I guess, like, if you're trying to build Barbarian up as this monster, like, what better way to do it than by having him squash the King of Memphis, I guess. But yeah, it was interesting. I mean, outside of those punches, I mean, Lawler really didn't get a lot of offense in. I mean, Barbarian was pretty much dominating him through the entire match. So, yeah, I thought that was interesting. But, yeah, the match was worth about a star, but it was all about the angle. So
yeah, I was very surprised at the squash. It's funny, like Lawler's the King of Memphis, and then, Conga the Barbarian. I mean, I guess they're trying to build him up, but I don't think I've ever seen Lawler get, like, just flat out squash. I mean, we've seen him do like WWF squash kind of scenarios, but in Memphis squash, I don't think I've ever seen that. Calum, what did you think?
Just for context, I've done some research whilst Matt was talking there. Jerry Lawler held a version of the Southern Heavyweight Championship 58 times.
Jesus Christ. Wow.
Brian Christopher held a version of the Southern Heavyweight Championship 26 times.
Keep it in the family.
So, nepotism running wild in Memphis, my brother. Back onto the thing. It was a very strange one. As you say, you don't often see the top guy in a company get squashed the way that Lawler did for the majority of this match. Maybe like John Cena being an exception, but you never saw Hogan, you never saw Austin get trounced like this the way that Lawler did. Although it was a bit of Scoop Slam City, there wasn't a lot of finesse to it, but as Lance Russell so eloquently put it, and as you told the folks listening, he is just a massive man, not necessarily peak physical condition. He's just huge. But yeah, I mean, it was a difficult one for me for me to rate. It was an extent, for the most part it was an extended squash, but the aftermath of everything was really good. I have given it 1.5. It was a strange one for me. I didn't know if it wasn't bad. It wasn't bad. It wasn't great. But as I say, it was interesting to see Lawler as the top guy getting absolutely trounced. So yeah, 1.5 for me.
You can almost say 1-star match, and then the additional half stars for the aftermath, right? I mean, you could probably say that too. So I get that. All right, Dr. G, bring us home on this one.
You know what? I'm going to agree with Calum on that. Exactly how I rated it. 1 on the match, and then I did 1.5 and the 0.5 for the angle part. This isn't really that unusual. I mean, I did watch some Memphis. You would see times, and this is to get their house show circuit going, so people will come out, especially to the Coliseum. I think it was at every Monday night. And so this was, here a chance. Oh, the king is down. He's everybody's against the king. He's got his back in the corner. They back him into the corner, and now we want we want to see him get his revenge Monday night. At the Memphis Coliseum. So that's basically how they would always do these things. They always had these brawls in the studio. So that's not really unusual. That's what Memphis is known for. Memphis was known for that kind of booking, if you want to say. So I just thought, it's so weird that the Barbarian from New York, I guess New York accent changed, I guess.
Well, Dr. G, I forgot to mention one thing before you finish. So after the match, Lawler, to your point, Lawler cuts a bloody promo and they book a lumberjack match against the Barbarian. But then your guy in current NWA, Austin Idol, comes in and pipes up. And then, of course, I'm sure you're very happy at the 84 Austin Idol appearance in that promo.
Oh, my gosh, yeah. And the funny part of it is his voice sounds exactly the same. Like when you get older, you usually, your voice will change a bit. He sounds exactly the same. It's like if you turned, if I didn't see video on that, I would think it was Austin Idol now, doing a promo on the current NWA.
He ages like Arn Anderson.
It's true. It's true.
Yeah.
Because he did, he pretty much looks the same age there as he does now. Obviously I don't know what his physique looks like because he always is in a shirt, but
next to Tyrus, he's a bodybuilder.
Oh my gosh, you aren't kidding. But I'll tell you that this is definitely some old-fashioned Memphis booking. This is the way they always did it, and yes, I mean I'm not saying that Lawler always got beat up on television, but it has happened in other angles, and this was just a chance to, and I think they were really trying to build up Barbarian to be a big player at the time. They always loved picking those big guys in so they could dominate Lawler in the beginning, and then he'll get his revenge in the end.
Well, I was trying to figure out on timing when he actually came to Crockett. My guess is probably going to be after this run with Lawler. It was probably not too long after that, would be my guess, but who knows? All right, so
1.5.
Okay, and I went 1 star, kind of for all the same. I'm sorry, I went 1.25 star, kind of for the same reason we all talked about. I was surprised that Lawler got squashed, but Dr. G kind of clarifies the why of that because they want to get you to the house show, which makes a lot of sense. That's good Memphis booking. But I thought the brawl afterwards was pretty cool. So I'll give it 1.25 stars. I mean, for a standard TV studio Memphis match for a hot angle to get you into the Coliseum or wherever the match was going to be, it was okay, but nothing spectacular. So I also go 1.25 stars on it. But it was kind of cool to see Barbarian pre-Crockett because all I've ever seen Barbarian of was in Crockett and in the WWF run. So it was cool to see him outside that environment, I thought. All right, so our third match is a match that I have been patiently waiting for trying to remember, when did we have Battle of the Belts? So September of 85 is when we had Battle of the Belts, where we had our first Wahoo McDaniel match in its entire infamy of Calum's just beginning stages of his pure hate for Wahoo McDaniel. So I wanted to make sure that I went out of my way to try and find a match that maybe would hook Calum a little bit, and I had to find the right reason why it would. And if it doesn't happen in this match, it won't ever happen because it's like, Calum, you couldn't write a better dream sequence for you when it comes to Wahoo. So let me go through this, and then I'm going to go to you first because obviously I want you to come out first. So this is Wahoo McDaniel versus Greg the Hammer Valentine from September 7th, 1977 for the Mid-Atlantic title. So the Wahoo is the champion. Flair is out with Valentine. Cottle and Crockett on commentary. So it's interesting to hear David Crockett in 1977 versus 85, and he's here with Bob Cottle. And the first note I made is, Christ, all these guys look so freaking young. There's lots of Matt wrestling and Matt work. Valentine hits a nice knee to the gut and sinks in a pretty realistic looking headlock. And we talk a lot about limb work and things like that and boring, but like what I love about Valentine, and to an extent Wahoo, they make their stuff look stiff and like make it look good. There's chops and punches and forearms by both that I thought also looked really good. Wahoo gets busted open. There's a nice underhook suplex by Wahoo. Valentine savagely wrenches Wahoo's leg and just starts working the leg, and they stop the match because Wahoo's leg has been broken, and I wrote, been broken much to the delight of one Calum McDougal. Let's see. Flair and Valentine celebrate, and Paul Jones and Steamboat run in, which I thought was funny to see Paul Jones running in to protect Wahoo, since we've always seen him as a heel. And I thought Jones was also wearing the ugliest the ugliest shirt I've ever seen. I thought it was a fun match, classic angle on free TV. I liked the brawling and the limb work. And before I give my ratings, I am going to go Calum McDougal first. This floor is yours.
So, a 13-minute video. Valentine, as we know, needs 15 minutes to get warmed up, and he's against Wahoo. So my first rating here, dud, straight away.
What?
No, that was my first. That was my first thought.
Okay, your first thought.
Then,
okay, all right.
And then you get into it, and Wahoo's trying some amateur wrestling, and it's needle's not moved quite yet. I also did find it funny that it's 2,000 silver dollars. I'm like, does Greg Valentine not have a checkbook? Surely that would be easier. Positive about Wahoo coming here. Ready? Drum roll. It was laying in the chops. I did quite like that. It was a hard hitting match. And the best parts of the match I thought were the slugfest spots. But they did start to get repetitive after a while, and they became progressively slower as the match went on, because I think Wahoo's starting to get blown up and Valentine hasn't quite got his peak performance at that point. So it started, you would get slugfest, and then it would slow down, and then it was slugfest, and then it would slow down. At one point I thought that it was a bit strange that Wahoo's coming back into it with chops, and they're going back and forward, and then he's the one that brings it down to a headlock. I thought that was maybe more of a Valentine, more of a heel tactic there, but never mind on that one. You say savagely he wrenches on the ankle. I think he was trying to do everyone a favour. The match was slow, it was repetitive, but what an ending! 5 stars.
Are you really going 5 stars? Are you really going 5 stars on this?
No, I know. I can't in all good conscience rate it the same as Magnum and Billy, but I will give it. I've not actually given it a proper rating. I will give it. Do you know what? I'll go nicely down the middle just now, whilst I think of a proper one. Can you pencil me in for 2.5 just now, whilst I go back?
I think 2.5 is fair, because I actually went 2 3/4. So
yeah, sure. 2.5, because it was. If you take it all, same thing. If you take it all, as the last match, it was. I wasn't overly enamoured with the in-ring stuff, but as an angle and as a historic moment, it's certainly up there. So, yes, I'll stick with 2.5.
All right, so Calum, we finally got a 2.5 star match. It sounds like you're leaning more because of Valentine than Wahoo, which I kind of totally understand that part of it. So, but I am happy that you gave it 2.5, and this will not be the first time that you have to deal with Wahoo over the next couple months. So more to come on that a little bit later. All right, so I am going to go next to Dr. G. What did you think of this match?
I'm right with you, Calum, on what you said. There was times where, the slugfest, it got, it was pretty good. I mean, it did get a little repetitive, and then it would slow down. But a typical, what I call a TV match, usually a TV main event match, kind of the, some quick spurts in there, and then, slow it down a little bit. I do think that Valentine was the better of the two in this match.
And I would agree with that. I agree with both of you on that.
But the angle, it's a good angle, and the thing is that they kept pumping up how much these two hate each other, and you know what, the way they were going at each other, you almost felt it, even though it probably wasn't the case, in real life, but they definitely did the angle really well, where you could tell these guys just totally disliked each other, and they wanted to basically beat the hell out of each other, and but I love the end. I enjoyed that, because you heard about that all the time.
Well, Valentine had a shirt. Yeah, that shirt is infamous. I think we might have to talent that shirt.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. But yeah, I totally agree. The 2.5 stars. It wasn't. It's tough. I think probably because of the angle a little bit. Probably that's why I went a little higher. It's probably a 2-star match.
Okay. So 2.5 with the angle. I mean, like I said, listen, I went 2 3/4 because I like the angle. I didn't mind the wrestling, but of course I like the mat wrestling and the base style probably a little more than the rest on this show. So that's probably went a little bit higher, but 2.5 is perfectly understandable too. Matt, what did you think?
Yeah, not much more to add than what everybody else said. We're all on the same page here. I actually went 3 on it. I thought the match was worth probably 2.5, but I gave it the extra half star because of the angle and how historic that angle was. Like that was a big deal at the time. So it's funny you said both guys looked young, because I made a note that I even here both guys looked old. So
see, I thought, based on how old they look, like if you saw Valentine on that freaking treasure shows that they just did on A&E Network. Holy shit.
Yeah, but I mean, but big match on TV for the time. Interesting that they had a title change on free TV. I feel like that didn't happen all that often at this point. But it was a good match that was helped by the angle, and didn't realize that it was this match when I hit play on the video. So that was pretty cool to see. So 3 stars for the whole thing.
All right, so average accumulative is 2.68 on this match. So before we go to break, we have the first 3, then we got 4 more to watch. So the Abdullah tag match, 3.68 is now taking the number 1 spot on our top 5, and that'll actually knock out the Houston tag with Tully in it. So this takes our number 1 spot. Barbarian average 1.37, and Wahoo average at 2.68. So those are our match ratings so far in the first half of this. So we were going to take a break now, and when we come back, we'll have matches with Buddy Landell, Ron Bass, and Black Bart, the Midnight Express, and we'll save we won't talk about the last match till we get to it, because it's kind of a hidden gem of just obscurity, not as a match I would say, but of obscurity. So we will be right back.
Break your legs. Yeah. Break your legs. Break your legs, yeah. Break your legs. Break 'em, 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 break 'em. Break your legs, break your legs, break your legs, break your legs. Break 'em, 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 break 'em.
Place to be Nation Wrestling. Welcome to the second half of NWA Crock Roll number 18, our final part of our Before We Were Crockett watch, our 4th part. We've gone through 3 really interesting matches. The Funk's tag team match from Japan, then we went to Memphis with the Barbarian, and then we just finished talking about the Wahoo McDaniel versus Greg Valentine match that we want to let the record show Calum McDougal gave 2.5, and we were talking about during the break before we went back on, it's kind of like the upside down world right now, because we have a 4-star Abdullah match and a 2.5-star match from Wahoo from Calum. So let's see if any of the other matches that we got to finalize this 4-part series out can do the same. I doubt it, but we will see. I could be pleasantly surprised. All right, so our 4th match tonight is going to focus on Buddy Landell, and he is taking on Al Madrill, who most people probably remember Al Madrill from his world-class days. I think he was a world-class tag team champion at one point with Brian Adias. And yes, that's showing my age and my world-class knowledge there. This is from Houston, so one of our favorite hotbeds that we have enjoyed in the course of this series watch. The first note I made is the hair game is strong in this, and it is actually heinous. Madrill's hair is shaped like the head of the male anatomy, I thought if you look at how it goes over his head. There's lots of stalling by Landell to start as Madrill reverses some arm locks and hits a shoulder block. Mandrell selling to reversing a headlock and by his head and convulsing up and down was one of the silliest, weakest looking sells I've ever seen in my life. And it's literally all Landell in the first 5 minutes is done is a headlock and just stalls. That's all he does for the first 5 minutes. The crowd is super into it, which is kind of one of those boggling Jimmy Valiant kind of things where the match hasn't been that great the first 5 minutes and the crowd is nuclear. Madrill does a terrible leg spot on the ropes by just moving Landell's leg to the side. That boss sells like murder on commentary, and Landell sells in the ring. Landell gets a brief comeback with forearms, knees, and punches, and kicks Madrill out of the ring. Landell hits a suplex back into the ring. Madrill hits a body press for 3. The crowd loved it, but this match was just kind of there with me with nothing or really anything of merit. It was what I would call probably a house show 8 minutes, and I will do my ranking after everybody else, so I will go to Dr. G first.
I don't know how you guys feel. This match didn't really do anything for me, to be honest. I remember Al Madrill from World Class, just like you did. And Buddy Landell, I mean, he's a decent hand, but I don't know. This match just, I don't know. It kind of bored me. I'm just going to be honest. Just it didn't capture my attention. And even though, what's his name? Gosh, I'm just blanking out the announcer.
Paul Bosch.
He sounds like one of my uncles because he's from Brooklyn. He is just dreadful on the mic sometimes. It's just like, and he doesn't add anything to the match.
Sometimes.
I mean, he just doesn't add. It's like his cadence of his voice doesn't go along with what's going on in the match.
Yep.
So I want 1 star on it. It was just there. I don't know. It just didn't do anything for me.
Okay, 1 star for G. Matt, what did you think?
Yeah, this match was a whole lot of nothing. I think the ring for this match was held together by tape and gum.
Welcome to Houston.
It was super rickety. Oh my god! Like
it was.
Buddy Landell is not a large human being, right? So when he gets whipped into the ropes and the whole ring moves, like you got a big problem there. You mentioned the hot crowd, and you mentioned that this felt like kind of like a house show match. I have wonder if this was like the opening match of whatever show this was on, because it kind of had that feel to me where the opening match of a show is crowd is hot for literally anything. Like it kind of felt like that to me. So I mean, the match was technically fine. Like they didn't botch anything. It was just super boring. So I only went 1 star on it. It wasn't great, but it did pick up a little bit by the end. So I felt okay giving it 1 star. So, but
yeah, I didn't think. Like I guess for me, it's kind of one of those things like where Buddy, it was just a squash. Buddy didn't do anything, and Madrill, I thought his offense was really bad. I think G said it's just boring. I also went 1 star for all the reasons you guys said as well. So, Calum, what did you think?
There's nothing that I can really add.
Just kind of there.
Yeah, it was not for the first time we have watched a match that you're thinking that it's just it's just there. It wasn't. There was nothing memorable from it. There was nothing that was downright bad. It was just a match that happened that we watched. So 1 star for me as well. It's
all right.
Yeah, there's not much to it.
All right, so we're running the gamut. All of us went 1 star in this match. So that actually puts it tied with the bottom 5th match, Ellering and Olympia versus Gang and Khan as one of our top 5 worst matches. So that is officially tied with that, which I think is suitable for that. Because I think we said the same thing about that tag team match where it was just kind of there and a TV main event. And so, yeah, I think that all equals out. So, okay, cool. All right, so the next match we're going to watch, we've gone from Japan, we've gone to Memphis, we've gone to Mid-Atlantic, we've gone to Houston. Now we are going to Florida and Dr. G's wheelhouse. I wonder if we'll get any good Dr. G stories out of this because we always do when we go to Florida. This is Championship Wrestling from Florida from 1984, and this match focuses on one team that is former WWF World Tag Team Champions about a year before. This match takes place a year before that. But from a Crockett era standpoint, it focuses on the tag team of Black Bart and Ron Bass, who we have seen in our watch. Black Bart, former national champion, Bass as well. And the last thing I wanted to do was put him in a match separate, so we'd have to watch 2 separate matches with each of them, because I think Bass is good fundamentally, but I think Black Bart has done nothing for us. So it's good to see a tag team match, and we know that they were I think they were called the Long Riders or something of that nature before they broke up. So it's good to see him here in Florida. So this is for the U.S. Tag Team Champions, the Florida Tag Team Champs. And if you listen to our Crockett Timeline Watch, the current Florida U.S. Tag Team Champions would be Wahoo McDaniel and Billy Jack Kane. So this is the same title here represented in Florida. That is Wyndham and Rotundo. On paper, it seems like it would be a good tag team matchup. Buddy Colt and Gordon Solie are on commentary, and Bass and Bart are the former champs. So fun start with Wyndham monkey flipping and arm dragging. I thought was really good. Gordon wishes someone well on the wedding, which I thought was really out of left field because I have no idea what that was all about. Wyndham and Rotundo do some quick tag work over Bart's arm. Bass beats up Rotundo outside after Bart tosses him out, and the heels work him over for a bit. Barry shows some good fire trying to save his partner. The heel offense is mostly punching and kicking and dropping Rotundo's neck on the top rope, and then a bunch of front face locks. Rotundo is a really good face in peril, so I might have liked him. We did see him in a tag team match on our last episode too. I wish we had gotten to see him more of Crockett, which we will later on into our watch, but in early days of our watch. Finish came as Bass did a backflip on Rotundo that basically Wyndham runs in and pushes Rotundo over the top on top of him for 3. Kind of a short match, nice TV main event. I actually went 2 stars. I thought it was relatively solid. So Matt, I will go to you first.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I went 2 1/4 on it. My first note for this is, oh good, more Gordon Solie. Fantastic. Yeah. I
him
thought
and Bass are highlights of these shows, man.
Jesus, Solie. I said it the last time I was on. Just gain a personality, please, for God's sake. The pacing for this was pretty good, and like you said, it was a TV main event, so they kind of had to keep a decent pace because you only had a certain amount of time. But I thought they kept working really through the whole, whatever it was, like 8-minute match, if it even went that much. But I thought Rotundo really got the shit kicked out of him by Bass and Bart. He was getting the crap kicked out of him. And, I really liked the finish. I thought that was something different, especially for the time period, to see that reverse the pile driver into a cover like that. So, just a good, solid tag match, 2 1/4.
All right, 2 1/4 for Matt, 2 for me. Dr. G, what did you think?
I'm going to agree with Matt. I went 2 1/4 as well. Barry Windham and Mike Rotundo at this time were really a hot tag team. And, I used to, again, see them live a lot. And, boy, the girls would go insane over these 2 guys, especially Barry. But every time you went to see them in a match, usually it was Rotundo was more like the Ricky Morton of their team, the one that's, the guy that gets the shit kicked out of him. And then, obviously Barry would get the hot tag. Same thing like kind of with the Rock and Roll Express type of booking, I guess, if you want to say. But I for a TV main event, nice length. I know it seemed a little short, but because the time constraints, I just think it was nice. It was, for the most part, the action was pretty good, where you didn't have a lot of lulls in it, because you start getting a lull with Bass and Bart, you're going to get bored, and we'll probably be rating this a lower rating than it is. So, I liked Barry Windham and Mike Rotundo. They were one of my favorite tag teams at the time. So that's why I went 2 1/4. I thought it was a pretty good match.
Yeah,
nothing bad to say about it. Like the last match, nothing. There was really, if you listen to our comments, there's really nothing to say there. At least here you could say, there was some good action. I do like the finish. I totally agree with you on that. It's kind of different for that time. It was definitely something you didn't always see, on TV every week.
Well, and for me, listen, I am a self-admitted Barry Windham mark. Like, he is, like, I can't wait until we get back to our timeline and we can get to the next Battle of the Belts where he takes on Flair. But I absolutely love Barry Windham in the NWA, and one of the tragedies I think of our watch is Barry Windham and Rotundo. They actually, I think, they come to the Crockett or the NWA right before we start watching, and then Windham was slated to win the U.S. title, and then he just up and disappeared, and they both went to the WWF. So we kind of missed out on some Rotundo and some Windham on our watch, but we will get them both. We will get them both back eventually, and we get Windham back when we get to 86, which I'm looking really forward to. So I can't wait till we get to that. So, and it was good to see Bass and Bart as a tag team and actually do something other than just like punch kick, and Bart has been just abysmal in our watch on Crockett. So it was good to see that. So Calum, what did you think?
I thought, yes, I enjoyed the match. I thought it was very strange that the Windham and Rotundo are really, really over, and then a few years from now, Mike Rotundo turns into the most boring man that's ever been in the middle of a wrestling ring. It's like night and day from what we watched to then. Gordon Soley was more nasal than he normally is. I have to point that out. It was very, very noticeable. And I went searching because they said it was an Australian tag team event, and I had no idea what an Australian tag team match was. The best I could find was it's either a regular tag team match, or one of they have a team captain. I will do further research. But yeah, it was an enjoyable match. I really liked the finish, as you pointed out. So I went 2 stars on this one.
Okay, so a good teamy main event match. So 2 1/4 for 2 and 2 for, so not a bad match. Good for a TV watch. So I think that's fair to say about this one. So all right, cool. So now we're gonna move on. We are going back to Texas, and we are heading to World Class. An interesting match here. This is from May 5th, 1985. I think this is from the same show that Kevin Von. I think we're going to go back and watch this match in August. Kevin Von Erich versus Ric Flair is the main event of this show. But it's the Midnight Express versus the Fantastics. And, those of you that have watched Crockett over the years, that Midnight Express versus the Fantastics becomes a really hot feud in 1988. But here we are in World Class. And they're feuding here in World Class. So it is for the American Tag Team titles, which are vacant. The Fantastics come out with an 8-foot hillbilly named Little John that I have no recollection on. So if Dr. G, you watch World Class, maybe you can explain to me Little John, because I don't remember at all once we get to you. Cornette arguing with the ref is fantastic. Cornette has to sit down next to Little John so he doesn't interfere in the match. Really weird tag rules. So it's 2 rings. So a member of each team has to start out in each ring, which I thought was really weird. Like, I don't remember this match at all. I thought it was a quick pace to start with Rogers and Condrey going back and forth. Eaton mostly dominated Fulton, but Fulton rope flips Bobby to the wood floor, which is a nice little spot, and Eaton took an absolutely sick backdrop out there as well, which is amazing. I thought it looked really good. All 4 get in the same ring, and the heels work over the faces. Great drop kicks from the Fantastics, as always. Most notably Rogers, who looks really good in this, I think. I think him and Eaton really stood out in this match. The heels, multiple chair blows to the faces. Cornette's talking mad crap outside the Little John, which I thought was fantastic. The heel work is great. As the Fantastics come back, and we unfortunately see Condrey's ass in this match, which we really didn't need to see his ass. The ref goes down on a bump. Little John gets up to stop the ref bump by Eaton. Cornette smacks Fulton with a racket, and we get a 3 count, but the officials confer, and one ref gives it to the Express, but then it's reversed, and the Fantastics are crowned a new champs as Cornette hits Little John with his racket and runs away, which was fantastic. I really don't get the ending of the match because it was a no DQ match, so the ending didn't make a whole lot of sense, and quite honestly, the Midnight Express should have won this match. So I will go to Matt first. What did you think of this match?
I found this to be incredibly disappointing. When you see Midnight Express Fantastics on paper, like you said, you expect a great match, and I think the problem with this match is that the stip and the 2 rings, it got too cute for its own good. I think was the
very
big
Vince
problem.
Russo world class here in '85.
Yeah, like it was all over the place. You got people at ringside. There's 2 rings. It's no DQ, but we're not sure if it's no DQ. No, we don't mean that type of no DQ. We mean this type of no DQ. Like it's all over the place, and I don't think it worked. And the other thing too is the Fantastics are a great face in peril tag team, and I think this match didn't really play to that strength all that much. So I think it was just kind of there. And the finish was really, really wonky. I think it was more because of the camera angle.
Well, it was also very confusing. It was so confusing at the end.
Yeah, it was incredibly confusing. Did they win? Didn't they win? It was a total match. The Fantastics eventually win because of reasons. Was the note I made. I'm still not sure how and why they won the match, but just a mess. The action was good, but I had to knock off points for that ridiculous finish and just the unbelievable amount of stipulation. So I ended up going 2 1/4 for the whole thing.
Yeah, I'm with you on the disappointment. I mean, we've seen the Fantastics and the Midnight Express have some bangers, and fundamentally it's doomed to start when you separate them and put them in separate rings to begin with, which is just so freaking stupid.
Calum, did I say 2 1/4? I meant 2 1/2. I'm sorry, I was reading the wrong line. 2 1/2.
Okay. All right, Dr. G, what did you think?
Well, I gave it 2 stars. I agree with Matt. The rules were all over the place. Why do we have 2 rings? It really made no sense to me. I never heard of such a thing.
Because they had a match later on in the show that I believe was for 2. I don't remember what it was. I'd have to look up.
Okay. Yeah. So maybe they just tried to incorporate it. And like I said, I agree with you, Matt. I was like, question, okay, why did the Fantastics win? What happened? I was a little confused by that as well. Really, honestly, it was more of the Jim Cornette show. Mm-hmm. Honestly, that's what it seemed to be focused on more, was the Jim Cornette show. Now, Big John Harris, if I remember correctly, I think he did play basketball at one time. I don't know if it was pro, but I know in college, because he was truly like 7'7", and I believe I think he was in the AWA for a little while, very quickly in like 86 or something like that. Silo Sam or something like that. I vaguely remember him. I vaguely remember him in World Class. He wasn't there. It was a cup of coffee. It really was. I don't think he really ever did anything major, but the match, it could have been so much better. You see that on paper and you're like, wow, you're going to get at least a 3-star match. The action was decent, don't get me wrong, but I just think with all the stipulations, and then, believe it or not, even though Jim Cornette's a great manager, I just thought it was so distracting having him and they seem to be focusing more on him and Little John than they were the match. I don't know if you guys felt that, but that's what I felt.
Yeah, you were right. It was the Jim Cornette show and what's going on with Little John, and that probably takes away a lot from what should have been an easy 4-star match.
That's why I went 2 stars on that. But again, they have had other great matches, and World Class Booking was a little weird. I mean, what do you guys think of Mark Lorenz as an announcer?
He's very ponderous. That's the word I would call him.
I think a lot of announcers from the 80s for these 80s territories are kind of like that. They're all very one note. They all kind of sound very, very similar. And
broadcasting was different. I did broadcasting as my original career for a little while, and when you got people from generations before you, they hated the way we did. I hate the way you guys do things. I did some talk radio for a little while, and they thought that we were too boisterous, that we sounded like we were doing a cartoon, like to them. So yes, it was more serious, one tone. But broadcasting has changed over here. Vince changed the way broadcasting's done in wrestling, if you really want to come to it. And if you listen to Vince McMahon in the 70s and the early 80s, he's kind of all one tone. He's not that same Vince we know, with that laugh and everything. You didn't hear none of that back in the 70s. That's because that's the way they told you to announce in those days. So
that and he was getting matches like Jimmy Valiant and Chief Jay Strongbow.
I appreciate the additional commentary, because literally the commentary is a big focal point of this because sometimes it's single, but yeah, they're all kind of the same in terms of how they deliver on these matches. It's so freaking different.
Yeah, I mean, it was just a different time,
Yeah.
A lot of them, were they not, like, employed by the television station? And they were just...
Well,
so they were just,
I know
like,
Cottle.
regular.
I know Bob Cottle was. For a fact.
Something's telling me that Lance Russell was as well, and he just turned out to be a very good...
He was a general manager at one time, and then Dave Brown was a weatherman. He actually still continued to do weather throughout the years, and then he would do the wrestling on the side kind of thing. So he had like a regular career in it, and so did Lance, but I think Lance then wound up becoming full-time eventually, but... No, you're absolutely right. And Mark Lawrence, I know, was also a broadcaster as well. So, again, it wasn't necessarily that they did sound bad, but it's not necessarily their fault. It was just the way broadcasting was, and they were told things were a little bit more strict and rigid compared to what we're used to now.
Yeah, so, great conversation on the announcing for sure, and that's one of the underrated, or I should say not hidden gem qualities of these matches we watch. But, Calum, what did you think about this match?
It's difficult not to feel a bit disappointed. Everyone said that you see the midnight. I see the midnights and fantastics, and I left it to. I watched these matches out of order. I left this one till last, thinking I'll give myself something good to watch before I get to the Wahoo match. But I mean, it wasn't bad. As Matt said, it was just a bit. They were trying to be a bit too clever for their own good. It was sometimes confusingly shot because sometimes they would go to the hard camera which showed the two rings side by side, then they would do a close up of one of the rings, and then they would do a hard camera which showed the rings one behind the other. So you didn't actually know what was happening and where at any one particular time. I thought I've got a note that Tommy Rogers looks like he could be a Vince guy. I didn't realise he was in that good a shape. He could have been a Vince guy if he was about a foot taller. Because he could shift around the ring. He could hustle. I didn't really enjoy the finish. I think it sounds like I'm not alone in that one as well. I don't think the Little John thing, other than the guy being fucking huge, really added anything to it. I mean, it was still a good match, but you can't help but feel a bit disappointed knowing what and you're not going to get. I mean, the Midnight's Fantastics from Clash 1 did very, very well in the GWCW match pool, and
the Bash 88 match is really good too.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, Bash 88 gets it. So there was a good, and I think they might have had a TV match that made it on, that got a good few votes as well, if I remember rightly. You're not gonna hit a home run every single time, but it was still a bit disappointing knowing what they could do. So I've gone 2.5 as well, because it wasn't a bad match by any stretch of the imagination.
Okay, so I also went 2.5. It's almost like I can't bring myself to bring the Midnight Express and Fantastics match below a 2.5. I mean, because I've never seen a 2.5 match between the two. But I think for me, what I did like, and what's centered on me is what I really liked. I did like Jim Cornette, which obviously is a part of Crockett, so you get some perspective on him. But I also thought that Fulton and Bobby Eaton were high. Like, Bobby Eaton took some sick bumps out on that floor, so it was great to see a highlight of him. And I actually thought Bobby Fulton was really good too. But as a cohesive tag team match, it was a big mess. And like everyone said, the ending was just a complete and utter disaster. So I'm also going to go. I will go 2.5 on that match as well. And Matt, you went 2.5 on yours? G, you were 2, and Calum, you went 2.5, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So this brings us to our last match, which I just kind of stumbled on, by accident. But I was looking for something for JJ Dillon because we've covered almost every single. I think I've found every single wrestler I can remember that we've talked about in Crockett at this point, including Baby Doll, Paul Jones. I didn't find anything with JJ Dillon, so I randomly put in JJ Dillon in, and what I did is in YouTube, I put in JJ Dillon wrestling matches. and this one popped up, and there is a whole story behind this tag team that we're about to talk about. But this is from Detroit. It is from Big Time Wrestling, which I've never heard of. It is from the 1960s, and it is JJ Dillon and Arnold Scotland, who I think we've talked about as a manager on the show, very famous manager from the WWF, managed Backland, versus a team called the California Hells Angels, who I've never heard of in my entire life. But there is a backstory with the California Hells Angels, which I discovered in the recent days as I went back and researched this match. So apparently most people thought they were brothers, and I'm not going to get too much into it, but apparently these two are also boyfriends, like lovers, in a day. And of course, back in the 60s, that was very, no way, you can't do that in a wrestling. So it wasn't really, I think it might have been well known in the wrestling, in the locker room, but it wasn't really well known. But there's a fascinating story that I found that I'll probably link on this when we post it. They can read all about the California Hells Angels. That gives perspective. Kind of a sad story. I mean, one of them has to quit the ring. They have a heart attack in 1970, becomes a ref, and then dies after refereeing a wrestling match from another heart attack. So really fascinating story. So before I get into this match, Dr. G, you're kind of like an old school like I am. Have you ever heard of the California Hells Angels ever?
I never heard of them. And I have to be honest with you. I mean, I've heard of Big Time Wrestling because we interviewed JJ some years ago on the
Did he talk
Place to Be
about that?
podcast. I remember him just mentioning Big Time Wrestling. He didn't talk about that specific match or anything like that, but I remember him mentioning that, all the different territories that he was in, and I read his book as well, but I do not remember this team whatsoever. I really don't.
There's probably a reason for that, because they're not real good. But Matt, have you ever heard of the California Hells Angels?
Absolutely not.
Okay, and then last but not least, Calum, I'm assuming you've never heard of these gents either.
Well, as it would happen, no.
All right, so as it would happen, it's a big fat no. So let's jump into this match, because this is really, I'm curious your perspective on this, because this is a really, I don't know, it's like one of those obscure matches that you would never know that is in the existence of man for me, and it was almost like, what is this? So anyway, it's in a studio, kind of like Mid-South studio, but the announcer is he calls them the Dean of Announcers, Lloyd Layton, who I have never heard of in my entire life, and I'll go around the horn again. Dr. G, have you ever heard of Lord Layton?
No.
Okay. Matt, have you ever heard of Lord Layton?
That would be a negative, sir.
All right. Colin, would you like to go the whole gamut here and say you've never heard of him either?
As someone who comes from a country that has many lords, Lord Layton is not one of them I've ever heard of.
All right, so none of us have heard of the California Hells Angels, and none of us have heard of Lord Layton. So I don't know how he is the Dean of Announcers. What I will say is he looks like a game show host, and that's who he reminds me of, just like a straight-up game show host. So the Hells Angels are wearing Hells Angels vests that say California underneath them. They look like two casting rejects from the movie Grease. That's kind of the only way I can figure out how to describe them. JJ Dillon is dressed as a cowboy, and Scotland looks like like Scotland looks. JJ is billed as Jim Dillon. The Hell Angels are the World Tag Team Champions of what? I have no idea. The ring looks like a mattress and hose ropes put together on it. Really bad presentation here. The Angels work Dillon's arms. The studio crowd is pretty hot, which again, these studio crowds are unbelievable. I don't know how they get hot for just bad stuff. The Angels keeping Dillon down in the arm hold by grabbing his tights. In between, they get knees, kicks, and chops and punches. Scotland gets a hot tag, beats up the Hell Angels and chases them out of the ring. The Angels double team Scotland with a move with boring offenses, punches, and front face locks and choking. Dillon tags in, does nothing. He's body slammed, and a knee drop from the top rope ends it. And I'm going to go to Colin McDougall first to talk about this match.
I was absolutely fascinated by this match.
Me too. I don't know why.
This might be the oldest match I have ever seen in my life. It's so old that, Sean, you were a teenager when you first saw it.
and I might have, but it was also so crystal. This is from the 60s.
Wow.
we watched like that. We've watched that like movie reel film matches, right, with Paul Jones. This is before that match, and it's crystal clear and visual. You can totally see everything. It's like modern day. It's weird.
I mean, that match we watched from Portland the last time I was on was hideous looking compared to this.
It's crazy, and this is 1960 something. It's crazy. Sorry, Calum, go ahead.
No, that's all right. I've got it because I was wondering when it was from, because I know JJ didn't wrestle like he didn't wrestle like well into the 80s, like as like a regular. So I knew this was from way back. I didn't actually mind the match, to be honest. I thought it was all right. I've actually given it 1.75 now. I think I'm
wow.
I think I'm rating it higher on the basis that it's a museum piece. This match, for all intents and purposes, shouldn't exist on YouTube. If you told one of these four guys that in the year 2021, so what is that, 50 odd years from or 40 odd years from the time that it was released, that somebody on the other side, almost the other side of the world, could watch this anytime he wanted. They would be mind. Their minds would be blown. Yeah, so I think I've rated it higher because of the sort of the curiosity of it. The match itself wasn't great. It's not going to end up on anyone's GE big time wrestling matches list. But yeah, it was certainly something.
Yeah, I like how you phrase it. It's almost like a Smithsonian piece of wrestling work here that we found and discovered, that Indiana Jones went on a mission and brought this match tape back to us and said, "Here, watch this." It's just like the most like mind-boggling match. Like, not because it's a great match, but just the times, a team we had never heard of. You got Scotland and JJ who have big visibility here. And they're kind of, and JJ's the jobber. I think Scotland had a pretty decent hot tag, and clearly the Hells Angels are working like an old school heel team. So I don't fault you for going 1.75. I think there's a lot of factors that go into that. So, Dr. G, what did you think? Oh, sorry, go ahead, Calum.
No, I was going to say, and on that article that you found, anyone that's, if you put the thing in and you put the link in it, I would encourage everyone to read it, just like you, because it was fascinating. This is the only match that is known to exist of this tag team.
Yes.
The California Hells
on
Angels.
YouTube.
It's
anywhere a video. Yes.
Yeah. So it's an amazing find.
Yeah, I'm really proud. Listen, I'm not one to pat myself on the back, but I was pretty happy with this find. It was kind of like, wow, this is awesome. So, Dr. G, what did you think of this match?
The match was okay. I mean, there was nothing. It wasn't as bad as the Al Madrill match, I thought. But I gave it a 1.5 stars. I think more for the vintage of it. I mean, I couldn't believe how far back we were going. And, big time wrestling. There was a Boston version of the big time wrestling. That's what I thought this was at first. But I guess it's the Detroit version of it. And I guess they had their own a lot of the territories back, 50s and 60s had their own versions of the NWA World Tag Team Championships. I think San Francisco had theirs, Detroit, which is this one, Mid-Atlantic had their own. So, they obviously in those days, we didn't have internet. You didn't have, the world wasn't connected like it is today. So you could say that this Hells Angels was the World Tag Team Champions, and really, they were, probably one of 3 or 4 world tag team.
They're more like the Detroit tag team champions.
Exactly, basically is what it comes down to. And yeah, you're right. The ring, it just, looked like somebody, like some kid put it together. 12-year-old kid, made it. But it was neat to see like the studio wrestling back then. I mean, I have seen some stuff from the '60s from AWA. But this definitely is one of the...
But it's all movie reel type matches. Nothing this crystal clear.
This was pretty clear for considering how long ago it was. So it was kind of a neat find, and it was neat to see JJ Dillon, because there's not a lot out there. There is some... I know he had the one time he wrestled at Madison Square Garden. I want to say he wrestled Tito Santana.
Mm-hmm.
in that match.
Mm-hmm.
So you didn't get to see much of him. So it was really really cool. So good find on your part, even though it wasn't the greatest match in the world when I was in a 5-star match, but it was just kind of neat to see some vintage stuff.
Yeah, I agree. Matt, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I went 1.5 to 2 for a lot of the same reasons. It's tough to grade a match like this in 2021, like just because of what wrestling is now. Like I feel like in 1968 or whenever this is from, like this match was probably pretty decent for the time. But I mean, watching it with 2021 eyes, yeah, it's not a great match. But like as a museum piece and as a fascinating time capsule of what wrestling used to be, this is pretty neat. And yeah, definitely read that article about the California Hells Angels, because it's pretty interesting stuff about this team. So yeah, 1.5 for me.
All right, I went 1.25 stars. Again, I mean, I could probably be convinced to go 1.5 stars, but really unique find, and the article just totally changed my like. I watched the match and like, and then I found the article, and the history of the Hells Angels, and nobody even heard of them before, is pretty amazing. So we will definitely put that article as a link when we do the post on the website. So guys, that is the end. We have now watched 29. I mean, Dr. G and Calum and I have, but we have now watched 29 matches in the last 2 months. And we actually have a new number one out of these 29 matches. So our new number one is the Japan match with Abdullah the Butcher. And so now I really want to think about us and doing this Crockett Pod. We've watched 29 matches, and we have an Abdullah match number 1 and a freaking Brett Sawyer match number 2. Could you freaking imagine that? And based on what we've watched, April 85 to November 85, those two would be top 2.
That's quite something.
It is. And then at the bottom, we're going to add that Buddy Landell match to the bottom match with the Paul Ellery match. So we definitely had a little bit of a shift. Pretty status quo for the most of it. But really, if I were going to say to go out of your way to watch two big – I mean, if you haven't seen it – so here's what I would say in this watch. I would say go out of your way to find the tag team match from Japan with the Funks and Abdullah and Sheik. If you want to look at a really cool famous angle, go back and watch Wahoo and watch Valentine, and then really go out of your way to find this match with the Hells Angels. Just from a historic perspective, it's kind of like you watch it in a daze because you almost don't believe what you're watching and how old it is, and it almost puts you like in a trance almost. It's just so weird and strange, and really is like a museum artifact of the wrestling generation, which is hilarious. So, but anyway, guys, that will close out our 4-part series on Before They Were Crockett. I hope the audience, have enjoyed it nearly as much as we have done watching it. Matt, I appreciate you doing these final 2 parts with us. We always enjoy having you on the show. Before we get the plugs and close out, so that was the month of May and June. So we still have a few months to go before we get back to our Crockett Watch in December of '85. So for the month of July, we're going to do a little bit of a spin-off of the 4-part series that we have just done. We are going to go to Houston, which has become one of our hotbeds that we've really enjoyed because I found a lot of Houston matches. And what I've done is kind of the same premise as this podcast Before They Were Crockett. I have gone back to Houston and found matches from Houston that also have Crockett wrestlers in it. And we'll have 14 matches. There'll be a part 1 and a part 2, just like we've done with this one, 4 parts. And our guest will be Ben Locke, who is Calum's partner over on the Special Relations podcast. So I've definitely found some hidden gems in this. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised, kind of like with this one. Houston's offered us a lot of mixed bag, but a lot of good. And Calum, I'm very excited to say that in part 2 of I will say in our next watch? Let me double check this to validate. I want you to tell me what you think about.
Oh, here we go.
A 1978 match with Harley Race versus Wahoo McDaniel, 2 out of 3 falls.
Oh, you had me at Harley Race, and you could just complete 2 out of 3 falls again.
Oh, his reaction is the best.
So, Calum, I gave you the match that you want. I gave you the match that you wanted. Now I'm going to make you go back and watch what started it all. 2 out of 3 fall matches with Wahoo McDaniel. You like how I did that?
You had me 2 out of 3 falls, a Harley race, and I remember in the lead up to one of my appearances on the Saturday special, we talked about Harley. I watched an absolutely brilliant 2 out of 3 falls match between Harley and Andre. And I thought you were going to give me that, but no. Yeah.
So I will not. I'm not going to spoil the match. I'm not going to say anything about the match because I want to have your fresh perspective. Would it bother you if I told you the match is 27 minutes?
Ladies and gentlemen, this will be my last appearance on the NWA Crock Roll.
Calum, I've enjoyed your stint on Crock and Roll, I must say.
Oh my
so
God.
have I.
Colin,
Wow.
seriously. Listen, it is Harley race. And
It's also Wahoo
it's only,
McDaniel.
but it's only a year after the match we watched tonight. So how bad could it be?
Very.
All right.
Wow.
So I just wanted to give that little sneak peek under the tent. So we got our 2.5 match out of Wahoo. Now I'm going to turn around and turn the clock back on Calum to his Wahoo 2 out of 3 days. So I look very much forward to that. And you're not allowed to quit, Calum. You're not allowed. You have to watch that match with us.
If I must.
All right.
I do it for the fans. I do it for the people. I don't necessarily do it for myself.
You did it for The Rock.
I did it for The Rock.
All right. So that's one match we'll watch. I won't on the next podcast. We're calling it Houston Layover. So our next 2 episodes will be matches out of Houston with Crockett Stars. So we'll have matches on the next one with Ivan Koloff, the Midnight Express, Dick Slater, Magnum TA, and let's see what else. Oh, Tully Blanchard, and then a really interesting match that I look forward to what you guys. It's Crusher Darso before he became Crusher Khrushchev, and he's actually a face in an I Quit match, which we'll talk about there, and of course the aforementioned Wahoo match versus Race. So good stuff coming up on the next one. Stay tuned. We've almost written a whole storyline with this whole Wahoo thing. I don't think you could book better than this, how this has played out for us. So I look forward to Colin's reaction and us talking about that match on the next episode. So, again, I know we're all waiting to get to December 85. Be patient with us. I hope you're enjoying these match watches as much as we are, because we got a 2-parter coming up with Houston, and then we have another 2-parter that will lead really right back into going back to December 85. So I think we have a lot of good stuff planned for July and August, so that'll be a lot of fun. So before we go, once again, Matt, thank you. Matt, anything you would like to plug?
Yeah, you can find me on every other episode of Highway to the Impact Zone. On the road to Against All Odds 2005, we just recorded the final 2 impacts prior to Against All Odds 2005. And as Sean can attest, boy, those shows aren't great, but hopefully we made the podcast entertaining, and well, you'll just have to listen to find out. And you can also find me on my show over on the Pop Experience. Piece of the Action movie live watch podcast. Newest episode of that will have Tim Cable as my guest for the very first time, so very much looking forward to that. And I believe that is all I have right now. And I'll let Sean talk about the other 85 podcasts we've been doing together. So
It's all right. Calum, anything you'd like to plug?
Yes, so indeed. We haven't planned it yet, as you might be shocked to hear, but we do have a special relations coming up, recorded in the next couple of weeks or so. Forewarning, the European Championships are on just now, so Euro 2020 is happening in the summer of 2021. So be prepared for some, if not a lot, of football talk / soccer talk. So that's going to come up in
kind of
time.
a big deal happened over this weekend, but fortunately it worked itself out. That was a pretty scary moment we saw there.
Yeah, that was not good, but thankfully everything went perfectly for Christian Eriksen after his health issue. So I saw a man die on my television, but also saw a man brought back to life on my television, which was a bit of a roller coaster in about 15 minutes time. So yeah, thankfully that all worked out. Please give us also a follow on Twitch and YouTube. I've just put up I've finally managed to get my good cousin Nikita Koloff to the £10 of gold on Retromania Wrestling. That's a hell of a fun game. So there'll definitely be more of that coming on YouTube and on Twitch as well. And as a minimum, you will get the monthly main roster pay-per-views on Twitch every month, and we have had a couple of detours to the NWA which have been very well received on Twitch and YouTube as well. So yes, please follow us, subscribe, and click the notification bell on YouTube as well, so you'll find out when we go live and when something drops. So Place to Be Nation on both of them, twitch.tv/Place to Be Nation, very easy that one, and search Place to Be Nation, all one word, on YouTube. You'll find everything there.
Yeah, and I also want to add that all these 29 matches, Calum has also done a playlist for those over on our YouTube channel. So Calum, thank you for that. So if you don't want to go search these matches down, I believe Calum will have those over on the YouTube page. So Calum, awesome job on that as always. So thank you for that. All right, Dr. G, what do you got?
All right, you can reach me at Dr. GPTB. Basically, I've been working on the NWA Saturday special. We're loving having the NWA back. I have to watch tonight's episode of Power, so catch up with that. But we drop that every Saturday morning at 9 a.m. I do this show along with the Podfather, Scott Criscolo, and we're having a great time. I think this new NWA is my favorite wrestling going on right now. So if you haven't caught any of it, go to Fight TV. It's $5 a month. You get a show every week, and it's good stuff. And I'm looking forward to the next pay-per-view, which will probably be sometime in August.
Yeah.
So,
two pay-per-views coming in August. So good stuff.
Yeah,
good stuff.
Maybe
they'll book Doctor versus Doctor finally. You can get that.
Yeah. Well, we invited him on the show because he's a little bit of a heel like myself, so I kind of like that. And we want him to come on the show. He's welcome to come, but he's
no selling you guys
so.
like the main event sells us.
Yeah. Well, that's we're gonna do something about that maybe.
Yeah. Flagrant disrespect. But anyway, so definitely give that a listen. And so for me, you can find me at NWA Crock Roll on Twitter. I also run the Pop Feed Twitter as well for the Pop experience over there. So Dr. G said the current NWA is his current favorite product. It is very good, but I am slowly but surely, along with my partner here, Matt Souza, really getting into current Impact Wrestling, which is a thing I never would have thought I would say in a million years. Souza and I have been watching the monthly Impact Plus pay-per-views, the latest one, Against All Odds. We will be recording a kind of a recap on that tomorrow as of this recording, and also talking about probably the best match I have watched the first half of this year, and it was on a TNA TV show without an audience. And again, something I can't believe I ever would come out of my mouth. So definitely listen to that. That'll be on a North-South feed. You can find me over on Chicken Salad. We just dropped the most recent one with where we all watched what was it? Great American Bash 1999, which is an
unfortunately that was the show that we live watched.
But we had a lot of fun. Doing that with Matt and Tim Capel as guests. We also have a popcorn chicken salad with Matt again, myself, and the Chicken Salad crew, where we watched Top Gun. That really
it goes places.
It goes a lot of places. Places it shouldn't go, and so I don't know if that podcast will ever make air, but if it does, please give it a listen, because it is one of those kind of listens. So a lot going on, guys. A lot of stuff on all the feeds. Please give them all a listen. A lot of great content, a lot of great talent, and these are just a pleasure to do. And I love doing this pod with you guys, Matt. I love watching matches with Matt too, because what I've discovered with Matt is, as much as they give me shit for my shit takes, Matt and I agree on a lot of stuff, which is a hard pill to swallow for him. So I rather enjoy that. All right. So for Sean Kidd, for Dr. G, for Calum McDougall, and our guest Matt Souza, we will see you on episode 19, Houston Layover, for NWA Crock and Roll. Have a good night, everybody.